Well, welcome to the Disciple Debrief, where Christ meets culture, where we're going to have an opportunity to see what is going on today in modern culture, modern society, and bring a discipleship lens that is not only biblical, but is our actual perspectives of how we live our lives daily and how we're interpreting these things, because that's what we're called to do.
Yeah, so let's get into it. Listen, I understand the plight of a mama raising 3 girls. And at the end of the day, I don't know how many girls she had, but this little girl, you can tell, was trying her. She was trying. And gentle parenting might have worked for a second, but gentle parenting ain't gonna work forever. Because at the end of the day, you got to snatch your kids up sometimes. I don't care who you say you are. We tried. They're going to be in therapy later. Well, then let them. Because at the end of the day,
Listen, therapy wasn't around 200 years ago,
right.
And they was fine.
And they were just
and somehow
fine.
We still got here today.
No, but honestly, that's real talk, though. Because when I look at it, there are times where I remember going through it as a kid and be like, man, why are my mom and my dad whooping me and this isn't this, and felt so angry about it. And then I had a kid. And then when I had a kid, I realized, actually, thank you. That was the best thing that you could have done for my entire life, because honestly, I feel like those whoopings saved me, if I be honest. I have the discipline that I have the respect that I have the ability to walk in rooms and be confident and know my boundaries with people, places, situations, and things. Literally, it made me who I am. So it's when we saying all that gentle parenting, yeah, those are the people who are walking into rooms and feel entitled to everything. Who feel like they can do whatever, act however, be however. And it's no, you got to learn mutual respect when you step into a place of business. When you step into any room, it's not about you. You got to have respect.
Yeah. And
so at the end of the day, gentle parent don't work. You got to whoop your kids. Spare the rod and spoil the child. I know that's in the Bible.
It's funny. I'm watching her and I'm looking at this mama and I'm just thinking of you, and I feel so bad because I'm I don't know why daughters always just want to try their mama.
That's all they do.
They
wake up in the morning. I got 2 little ones. They just be trying me.
But the moment hey, y'all better 5, 4, they tighten up real fast.
But that's the thing. The girls only know when I'm serious, when I snatch.
Yes.
That's the only time. They be like, ooh.
Yeah.
I was tripping.
And and I'll say this, here's the hard part. No, it's not hard for me as a therapist, to be honest. But I do have to, I take it into consideration a lot because of how therapy and social services has infiltrated our world system today a lot for good. Mm-hmm. Because there's some people out there that are just straight abusive.
Yeah, of course.
I've read the reports.
Yeah.
Now, is snatching your child up by their shirt like that abusive?
No.
I can't really say that's abusive.
It's called a chin check. Everybody needs it.
Hey, get over, and because I think sometimes you have to reinforce within the parent-child relationship, Gentle parenting oftentimes says, hey, we're going to put you on this plane. There's even for me, when I do family therapy, I tell my parents and I tell my kids straight up, I do it from a structural perspective.
Yeah.
And so when you're doing a structural perspective of family therapy, there's structure in this family.
Yeah.
There's hierarchy. There's the parent and then there's the child. Yeah. There's a boss. There's a CEO, and then there are, managers, supervisors, and everything underneath. So that's how I do it. But gentle parenting says, oh no, we're all on the same. I'm going to get to your level and we're going to talk like this. And we're going
to care about your feelings.
So you have every right to say what sometimes you don't need to say nothing. Sorry, 5-year-old. There's nothing that you have to say that can tell me why what you were doing was appropriate when you're running in this kitchen and there's a hot pan full of grease. And if that grease falls on you, then what? So even from a therapeutic structural perspective, I reinforce that. Now, going back to, there are some things that are just straight abusive.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm like, there's a video of, and I wouldn't want to show it because for me, it's even triggering. I think it's like of this school teacher. She has her son bent over, and he clearly did something wrong, right? But she starts whacking him on his butt and his legs. Like, it gets to a point when you're like, okay, you can stop. You literally gave yourself over to anger and wrath at that moment. And that's where I think the Bible says it's okay to be angry, but sin not.
Yeah.
And so there's a point, even your children are going to make you angry, but you don't sin in the midst of the anger by taking your wrath out on them.
For sure.
You discipline them to a point of love to where they understand that what they did was what they understand that what they did was not acceptable. It was not appropriate. It was not in alignment with who they are in Christ, with who they are as for us, as far as who you are as a Henderson. Yet at the same time, I still love you.
Yeah. Well, in Proverbs, chapter 13, verse 24, actually says, "He who spares his rod hates his son, but he who loves him disciplines him promptly." At the end of the day, I feel like it's one of those things where we have to understand as parents, we are modeling the relationship behavior between like parenting to God our Father. Like at the end of the day, when we are loved, he loves us because he corrects us. He corrects us because he loves us. And at the end of the day, I would rather be corrected by him to stop me from doing something that can be detrimental to my life, rather than allowing me to continue to be in a space of doing something that's contrary to, like you said, who he's called me to be, what I'm supposed to become. He knows the danger. A lot of times, like you said, I love how beautifully you articulated that don't give yourself over to wrath. God's correction is not like wrathful revenge, like judgment. It's actually, let me help my child get to where they need to be. Let me help my child redirect their behavior. Let me like bear my child to be in a place, posture, or position where I can get them to what I've called them to be. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's correcting our disobedience. Yeah. At the end of the day. Yeah. And so I think it's one of those things where, again, gentle parenting doesn't work for our household. There does become a finite line of abuse. But when it's not abuse when you're correcting your children. It's not abuse when your children are disobedient and you're bringing them back into order. That's not abuse. That's love. And at the end of the day, I think that should always be warranted in the home. Yeah. Like, that just doesn't work for me. I know that I was hard-headed. I needed to be snatched sometimes. Yeah. But honestly, it saved my life, and I'm thankful for it.
Yeah. And so you read, there's more verses in Proverbs even, like Proverbs 22:15. Foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. The rod of correction will drive it far from him. So you wonder why you have foolish adults? Because you have foolish children who never got that rod of correction. They were able to just run the streets. They were able to do whatever they want, come and go as they please. They were gentle parented, or they weren't parented at all. Mm-hmm. And so now you have fools as adults who are just running wild. Yeah. Even Proverbs 23:13. Do not withhold correction from a child, for if you beat him with a rod, he will not die. You shall beat him with a rod and deliver his soul from hell.
Period.
So it's... Now, I mean, you do got to look at this within cultural context, okay? Like, I'm 100% sure that when they're speaking about beating their kids with the rod of correction, it is understanding that to correct something is to take time to explain what was first wrong.
For sure.
So corporal punishment now is no longer something that becomes reactionary. It becomes an appropriate response to something that was done wrong, because I'm trying to correct a mistake. So think of anything that you correct. You have to first look at it. You have to first determine it, to study it. What was wrong? What were the errors? Go back, even meet with the person. Let them determine their mistakes. Do they understand their mistakes? Talk them through their mistakes, and then give an appropriate correction to the mistakes that were made, which at sometimes it is going to be a form of corporal punishment. Now there are many forms of corporal punishment, but it's also, I think, just remembering that if I'm going to punish my child, I'm always asking myself, is what the next thing I'm doing is this out of love of them, or am I doing this in my own personal anger and wrath? So if I'm leaving any marks, any bruises, if I'm doing anything that is going to demean or diminish their character, their emotional strength and well-being, their security in themselves, then those are key indicators that, hey, I can't do this anymore. I just want to be also mindful that I mean, who's to say that gentle parenting does or doesn't work? I think within the past maybe 5 to 10 years, it's been like a relatively new phenomenon that I think has mostly taken social media by storm. So do we have any research in gentle parenting? Who's to say? And if you guys find any research, submit it to us and we'll look over the research, we'll look over the facts. But I do think we got to be very careful when it comes to gentle parenting, because you're giving children a voice in the initial system, the initial environment that is to establish a baseline for how they are to interact within the world, which is the home, right? And so when you're giving these children such a powerful thing, such as voice and choice, which I think is good, but yet so early and not really understanding how to manage or titrate that voice and choice, here's what can happen is that they start going into their school systems, they start going to college, they start going into workplaces, they go into all these other areas and think they have this same voice and choice. And the reality is that does not exist. So they're getting into spats with their teachers, with their bosses, their supervisors, and they're wondering why they're having difficulty adjusting in these spaces where it requires them to balance hierarchy. It requires them to balance authority, and they don't have a respect for authority. And I think that's what we're dealing with a lot today, is that we live in a society where this younger generation does not have a profound respect for authority that our previous generation has, because in the initial family unit, we're teaching them, hey, you have the ability to challenge authority. You have the ability to question authority. Now, again, that may not be a terribly wrong thing to do, but are we often reinforcing it with, hey, there is an initial respect that is required. Respect is not a recommendation. Respect is not an option. You have to and will respect authority. It is a simple requirement.
Well, I think what we should do is taking into consideration maybe the people to whom came up with this idea of gentle parenting. And the thought that comes to my mind is a lot of the times that we make decisions out of wounds that were never healed. And so what I mean by that is maybe someone did experience some very crazy abuse, or what they may have considered abuse. And so they came up with this theory because they felt like that worked. That what may work for one doesn't necessarily work for all. And in all cases, we always have to look at, where does this thought process derive from? What is the purpose of why somebody would initiate that type of, response in their parenting? Maybe it did work, but again, that was what you needed because of something that may have come from you or towards you. And so all I'm just saying is, we just have to always be thoughtful about when it comes to, again, these theories of what people have come up with in parenting. We use a lot of course, parenting and learning how to parent, but we use a lot of biblical principles as to why we have reinforced the correction of our children. We have used a lot of these different things in just general in how we have parent our children. For us, that doesn't work for us. Our kids are very strong-willed, and I love that they are strong-willed. I don't want to change that. There are certain things about a child that I am responsible for training them in the way that they should go. Like I'm responsible for molding them into certain things. I'm responsible for carrying the weight of, hey, I want you to be a very strong child, be independent, have your thoughts, but then when is the time and the place that you should have them? When is the way that you should respect those who are around you and be conscious of everyone else, and developing our children to have a really clear emotional intelligence. Because I think that, again, the gentle parenting fact, it's like, yes, you're telling the child to only care for themselves, to only think about themselves, to only be concerned with, again, their whatever correction and how lack thereof.
Because if it doesn't feel good, or if I don't like it, then I have ability
then you have the ability to speak up against it and speak up about it. But it's like, okay, how do we put actual words or language to our children's thoughts? How do we make sure that when they're having these temper tantrums, instead of just, it's okay, how do I now help them to utilize their words, identify their feelings, and being able to actually learn how to function by controlling themselves and gaining control and being aware of their feelings, being aware of their emotions, and how do I help them navigate through that, rather than feeling that gentle parenting of not wanting to address it.
Yeah, because you can feel how you feel, but the answer is still no.
Right. Exactly. So, that's my final thought about that.